Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Naturally Empowered Living Podcast. This is your host, guide, and mentor in all things energetics, emotions, and self awakening, Jenna Smith. And if you know me well enough by now, if you listen to this podcast, if you know me in person, if we've worked together, if we've ever crossed paths, I hope that you know that I'm someone who is deeply passionate about helping people reconnect to themselves in a way that they feel safe and grounded and real and just trusting of who they are, to trust their discernment from the external, to allow their internal world to speak. So today is a very, very special episode because it is the final workshop in my 3-part series, How to Build Trust in Yourself by Reconnecting with Your Felt Sense. Something that initially was going to be an hour-long workshop that I was going to host in person turned into this beautiful 3-part series, and it has just been incredible. I've turned it into a virtual option where I've had people from all over the world enroll in this free workshop course, and I'll be hosting, right by the time this airs, I will have hosted the last in-person workshop as well. Just so honored, so grateful. So let's quick recap. Over the last 2 workshops, we explored reconnecting to the body without force and understanding the nervous system and learning why self-trust can feel so difficult even when we are so self-aware. And in this final workshop, we're going even deeper because awareness alone doesn't always create change, right? That conscious awareness doesn't always create the change. There's a gap there. You can be so aware of your patterns, but it's still keeping you stuck, right? Like most people know their patterns. They know these habitual loops, these cycles. They know they might overthink. They know they might people please. They know that they may abandon themselves or shut down or overextend or avoid or numb or control. Yet the pattern is still happening. So today we're exploring why. This workshop is about understanding how patterns are formed beneath the conscious awareness and how limiting beliefs are created through emotional experiences. And also why behavior is often the surface expression of something much deeper happening underneath. And that's a whole other layer because a lot of times we're trying to change the behavior when the behavior is the byproduct of what's beneath. And to close out this workshop, we'll be moving through a guided somatic practice to begin just gently reconnecting with some emotional roots beneath patterns. Again, not from force, not from shame, not from trying to fix, but from a lens of compassion and understanding and allowing space to open, to be understood. So whether you're listening or driving or walking or journaling or allowing this space to be a quiet moment for yourself while you're listening, wherever you are welcome to listen to this. You could always come back if you need to, be more intentional or give yourself that quiet time for yourself. But if you're able, I invite you to slow down, to just connect to the present moment, even if you're driving. Just soften a little bit, notice what resonates. And if this episode does speak to you deeply, the full workshop series is available for lifelong replay access, along with ways to continue this work through deeper one-on-one sessions and an upcoming retreat that I'm co-facilitating this summer. So I'll put all that in the link in the show notes. So all right, let's move into workshop 3, Rewiring Self-Abandonment at the Root. Hello, and welcome. Welcome to Workshop 3, the final part of this series of how to build trust in yourself by reconnecting with your felt sense. We are bringing the bright and vivacious colors today. My son has a spring concert that I'm going to right after recording this, and I just love seeing these children really being able to express themselves and express everything that they've worked on, and I just wanted to support because their theme, each grade is wearing a different color. So I'm coming in the rainbow today, the tie-dye. So yay, thank you so much for being here. We are going to take everything that we've worked on and went through in workshop 1 and 2 and really bring this full circle. I hope that things have been coming full circle, leading up to this point also, And before we dive any deeper today, I really just want to acknowledge something. Like, if you're here, it's probably not because you don't understand yourself, or maybe you don't understand parts of yourself, and that's okay. You probably are very self-aware. Like, if you are here, you are probably a very self-aware person. You've probably done work. You probably have that awareness of maybe patterns or maybe cycles that you fall into, or maybe you know that you're anxious, or maybe that you know that you struggle in certain areas of your life. What I'm trying to say is you're trying. You are trying, and most of us are very aware. You notice the patterns, you reflect, you process, you're trying, and yet something might still feel stuck, or you still feel that you're not fully shifting, or maybe something just isn't, it doesn't feel right? You might find yourself back in the same places, you're making the same decisions, or you're falling back into those same loops, just feeling those same patterns, or the same cycles repeating. And this can be frustrating, right? It could be confusing, sometimes even defeating, in the sense of like, by golly, what gives? And I wanted to acknowledge that, because to just know and to feel that you're not alone. Like, if you're in this struggle, or if you find yourself in this loop every now and again. And I just want to say something. You're not doing anything wrong, okay? You are not doing anything wrong. You make sense. You make sense. We all make sense. And a lot of times, again, we're a very bio individual, but a lot of times we stay stuck. We stay stuck because we're trying to change at the level of our behavior, at the level of the anxiety, at the level of the people pleasing, at the level of what we're seeing within the reality, like in the present moment, without accessing what's underneath, where the pattern actually lives. So we're trying to change the behavior, but the behavior is a byproduct. Behavior is not the root. Behavior is the result. Behavior is that byproduct of what's underneath. So, what we're getting into today is to be able to shift that focus from how do I stop doing XYZ into why does it exist in the first place? Oh, and I just got chills. I just got chills, because when we kind of get underneath that layer, because so often, how easy is it to get down on ourselves about that behavior, or about that pattern, or about, why I don't want to be people pleasing anymore. Why am I stuck in this pattern? But when we understand, and we could get underneath that behavior to see maybe the bigger picture, or maybe why it's happening in the first place, or why. Like, I can't remember if I've shared this quote. I share this with a lot of my clients. But a quote by Gabor Mate is, it's not the addiction, but why the pain. You could put he works a lot with trauma and addiction, and childhood trauma and things like that, but you could put any behavior in that. It's not the anxiety, but why the pain. It's not the addiction, but why the pain. What's underneath that? And when we allow that to blossom and to open without judgment, and just bringing that curiosity, we begin to soften, and we begin to stop fighting ourselves. We begin to stop judging ourselves, and we start to possibly see the patterns, these cycles, these habits, for what they actually are: survival mechanisms, coping mechanisms, protection, not problems, not flaws, not proof that we're broken or that we need fixing. Again, I know that I've shared this in workshops one, possibly, and two, is that our nervous systems, we are intelligent creatures. We are so intelligent. And every pattern that we have, every way that we shut down, every way that we overextend, every way that we avoid or control or people please or disconnect, at some point within our lives, that kept us alive. That kept us possibly safe in that moment. What I do air quotes, because obviously it may have been a conditional love circumstance, or there's a lot of different layers here, but it worked. Okay. That overextension, or that control, or that people pleasing, that disconnect, that dissociation, it worked at one point in time. It made sense. It kept you safe. And that's why you're still here. You're alive. And your system remembered that survival mechanism. And that can turn into protection. It could turn into coping mechanisms. It can morph into something more as time progresses. So today, and as every workshop leading up to today, we're not here to fix. We're not here to force. That was the whole workshop one. We're here to understand. And we're here to begin to shift at the root. Root. Depends where you live, I guess. So, because when we change, when we bring that awareness to the root, we don't have to keep managing the surface. It changes naturally. It becomes a natural byproduct. And I could share that from my personal experience with alcohol. I tried, oh my gosh, I might get emotional here, but it was decades, over a decade of my struggle with alcohol. And I would, try to quit. I'd go through that guilt cycle. I'd go through that anxiety. I'd go through the shame was so big because it wasn't just one drink. It wasn't, there was something more. That control wasn't there. So alcohol was a big piece of that coping mechanism for me. And like I said, I tried countless, like I don't have enough hands to say the amount of times that I tried to monitor my drinking, stop drinking completely, just one, not after a certain time, all the things. And once I stopped trying to fix the behavior, aka alcohol, and got underneath the why I chose the alcohol, what was hurting, what was missing, why was I numbing, really bringing that curiosity and root cause therapy, a lot of those sessions within that really getting to that root and seeing it from a space of love and compassion. I have a podcast episode talking about how alcohol was a teacher and that complete shift of perspective to bring in the compassion. I it was a natural byproduct. It wasn't hard anymore. And I don't even have words to say the shift that happened once I got underneath the behavior and stopped trying to force the change. And I'm sharing my personal example because I could reach out to countless people that I've worked with their testimonies. And sometimes that's just as impactful, but I wanted to bring my personal story in because this is the work. So as we move through today, I invite you to hold this perspective, that perspective of you making sense. Like every piece of you makes sense. You're not random. These feelings, these behaviors, they're not random. You're not broken. Like everything in you makes sense. And let's bring a little bit of understanding and possibly compassion into where you're coming from. So let's bring some clarity to this. And as you're listening to me, obviously we're virtual right here. You have the opportunity to pause me at any time if you need a break, if you need to process, if you want to journal, write down, come back to me later. Like I encourage you to take breaks. If you're feeling triggered, send me an email, hello@naturallympoweredliving.com. This is very deep stuff. And a lot of times, sometimes we might be scared of what's on the other side because we've been attached to this identity for so long. So I encourage you to take breaks, okay? Your autonomy also matters here. So whatever you need, choose that, okay? So let's start by looking at patterns a little differently. These patterns, these cycles, these habitual loops. And let's dive into, you've probably heard the term of limiting belief. And when I was in other professions and just growing up the personal development states or space, the limiting beliefs, I viewed it in a different way. So I don't want to talk about like flipping your limiting belief with an affirmation. Like that's not what I'm talking about. I'm literally talking about the beliefs that are living inside of you that may not even be your conscious awareness. Like you might not even realize things that are living inside of you. And that is what I mean with these loops that are continuing to cycle through because something possibly kept you safe, alive, protected in the moment in your past that formed a belief that now is looping in your present life. And you may or may not be consciously aware of it. So we're talking not just, again, we're not just talking about these affirmations that you flip. You flip the limiting belief into an affirmation and then just repeat it in your mind. That's great. Absolutely time and place for it. We're talking about something a lot more deeply embodied than that. A limiting belief is not something that you decided to believe. Sometimes, yes. But a lot of times the ones that we're trying to like bring change and awareness to are the ones that we didn't decide to believe in the first place, right? Can we agree on that? So it's something that your system has learned through experience. So here's how possibly a limiting belief can form. Something happens in your environment. Your nervous system, your body responds, and then there's an emotional experience, possibly fear, anxiety, anger, rage, whatever that might be. Your brain is trying to make meaning of it. Maybe a caregiver was there, maybe a caregiver wasn't there. There's a lot of different layers here. So your brain is trying to make meaning of this as your nervous system is trying to process this emotional experience running through your body. And that meaning that your brain and body are creating in this said experience creates the belief. I talk a lot about on my podcast a mindset loop where your beliefs turn into your thoughts, which reinforce your actions, which then lead to your experiences of your reality, which then reinforce said beliefs. And then it loops over and over and over again. And we always have that chance to change, to rewire, to repattern, to stop that narrative and choose something different. But a lot of times we're running autonomically. We're running just in that like same cycle loop until we bring like awareness always is step one, of course, but then we're bringing that intentional pause to make that change. So a lot of times that belief that was formed, going back to that example, having that nervous system response, that emotional experience, your brain is making meaning of it tied to your body. There's a lot of times a disconnect too, because we're shoving the feelings aside and we're trying to make logical sense of it. However, the belief isn't formed from logic alone. It's formed by also what is held in the body. I want to take a pause there because that's a big disconnect and a big gap. So, if at one point in your life, maybe you felt like I'm too much, or it's not safe to speak up because I got told to be quiet, or I need to keep the peace because I need to keep everyone else happy, or maybe you grew up in an unstable household and you were the peacemaker. You were the one that settled everyone else down. But how were you able, to learn that yourself when you're a 5, 6, 7-year-old child yourself? All examples. All of these things can form beliefs, and they weren't coming randomly. Again, this is nothing that you're experiencing is random. It's really just opening that perspective to understanding. And your system is now trying to predict this safety, this survival, this experience now as you're moving through your timeline. You're moving through your life now. So maybe things happened decades ago and that loop hasn't closed or that loop hasn't processed, or you're sitting in this same survival loop and you're living from what you've lived through in the past. Does that make sense? I kind of got caught up in my words there. So once a belief is formed in the nervous system, it doesn't just stay as a thought. And that's, again, coming back to that disconnect of mind body connection. It doesn't just stay in the thoughts. We can consciously think our way out of anything, but why is it still happening, right? So, this belief that's formed in our soma, in our nervous system, it's shaping our attention, our perception, our emotional responses, our behavior now as we're moving through our life, which means we start to live these beliefs, coming back to the mindset loop. The beliefs form these thoughts, which create your actions, which create your experiences and your perception of reality, which then reinforces your beliefs or disenforce. Is disenforce a belief? That's where the neuroplasticity comes in. You always have the chance to rewire. So when we talk about root cause work, let's simplify this a bit to actually feel. Let's just simplify this a little bit, because transformation, neuroplasticity, rewiring, changing these beliefs now, it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be simple. But simple doesn't equate to easy. Okay, so at the core here, coming back, the experience, the emotional response, the meaning, the pattern, or think of the mindset loop, the belief, the thought, the action, the experience. Let's break this down a little bit further that something happens, you feel it in your body, your system assigns meaning to it, and a pattern forms based on the survival that you experience in that moment. And over time, the pattern becomes autonomic. And now it's living in your present life. Like we're not just reacting to what's happening in the present moment now, we're reacting to what our body remembered in the past as well. That's where the confusion sets in. That's why it's like, I'm presently safe. I'm not being chased by a tiger right now in my present life. Why is my heart racing so fast when I'm in this confrontation or whatever that might be, right? Like it gets very confusing because our present life might be XYZ, but we're responding and reacting to what our body remembers from the past. Which also brings me to, yes, awareness is step one, because that brings your awareness, your openness, your curiosity, the doors opening, right? Using that awareness. But conscious awareness isn't always enough because we might be able to understand the pattern, but it's still taking over, right? So that's kind of where we get stuck in that self-awareness piece. Like, I'm so self-aware, but why is this changing? We're aware of the pattern, but we still feel it taking over. Real change doesn't come from the force of a new behavior. Oh, I'll just stop feeling anxious. Oh, I'll just take a deep breath. Oh, I'll just tell myself that I'm safe in this moment. All good things. All good things. All things that I practice myself. Deep breathing, taking a fiver, acknowledging like I am safe in this moment. But we miss the point of also acknowledging what we're experiencing too in the moment. So it comes from updating or like tuning into what we're experiencing right now. Yes, okay, I could consciously, cognitively say I'm safe in this moment, but what am I feeling now in my body also? Right? Like we're skipping step two, let's say. If awareness is step one, step two is actually feeling the felt sense, tuning into our body's sensation currently. And then step three is allowing that cognition, that cognitive piece to come in. Does that make sense? And that, I mean, that I'm like, I wanted to take a pause there because that's the power of root cause therapy. Allowing your body to feel and fully express what has happened, possibly in the past, without reliving. There could be very traumatic moments that have happened in your life. So we don't need to necessarily relive said experience, but we're allowing our body to feel without bypassing, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I'm fine right now, or it's safe right now, or whatever it is. We're missing that mark. Let's not jump to the cognitive piece of the learnings and the wisdom, okay? That's within you. However, let's acknowledge where we're at currently. Acknowledge that past loop to fully finish its loop once and for all, to then be able to cognitively bring that wisdom in now and say, okay, I allowed that loop to close. I allowed my body to feel what it needed to feel. I allowed my body to, to have that sensation, to release said emotional experience. And now I'm able to rewire. Now I'm able to bring in the conscious awareness, the wisdom, and all those reparenting tips. The neuroplasticity can come in now. So it doesn't come from forcing a new behavior. That's steps ahead, right? And or we're not forcing a new behavior. The behavior will be the natural byproduct. We're allowing ourselves to meet with what's beneath the behavior. So let's do a little somatic exercise now. So let's bring this into the body for a moment, okay? We do not need to force perfection. We are not judging in this moment. We don't need to do this perfectly. Just listen to me if you're driving. You could listen to me now and maybe come back when you have a moment to be fully in tune and just aligned with this practice that we're going to do right now. But just follow whatever feels right for you in these moments, okay? So let's go ahead and get settled. If you're seated, if you're driving, again, wherever you are, let's just take a conscious moment to settle into where we presently are. Okay. Feeling personally, my bum, my legs on the chair. I'm sitting crisscross applesauce right now. Just allowing any feelings or sensations in our body to arise. Maybe intentionally rolling your shoulders and letting them relax down. Just getting your present landscape of sensations in this moment. And just taking a nice slow breath and a longer breath out. And now I invite you to allow this to come into your mind, a pattern of yours that you've noticed in your life. Maybe something's already come to you as you've been listening to this workshop. Just allow whatever to drop in, this habit loop, this pattern within your life. It doesn't have to be the full story. Just a pattern that feels familiar, something that keeps repeating and maybe brings a sense of confusion or frustration. And instead of going into your thinking mind and allowing yourself to spiral, I want you to drop into your body and ask, what do I feel when this pattern is present in my life? And just notice. Maybe you tense up a little bit. Maybe your shoulders got tense. Your heart may started to race a little bit. Maybe your hands felt hot. We're just bringing sensation, awareness to the sensations that are arising. And as you allow yourself to stay with this, you might notice a sensation or an emotion or even some resistance coming up, and that's okay. That's okay. Whatever is coming up is okay. We're allowing it space to be. And maybe it hasn't had space to be. So it might feel really big, and that's okay. This is where that breathing and kind of pendulating back to this present moment, knowing I am safe in this moment. I'm allowing this feeling, this sensation to get as big as it needs to. And now you can gently ask yourself, if this pattern is protecting me, what might it be protecting me from feeling? What is it protecting me from? And allow whatever arises to arise. You're just holding space for your body to be heard. And now we're going to pendulate a little bit further. And I invite you to ask yourself, what would it feel like in my body if just 10% of this pattern wasn't needed right now? Not fully gone, not fixed, not forced into change, just a little less active. And notice what comes up. Notice what's coming up when you don't need that protection, that pattern, that coping mechanism anymore. We're not forcing change here. We're creating space for your system to feel and possibly arise more emotions underneath where that pattern is coming from in the first place. Really connecting to those points in your body where sensations are arising. And maybe offering a gentle hug or a conversation with yourself. Like you're tuned into your subconscious mind, your higher self right now, your intuitive self. Maybe have a little conversation with yourself, give yourself a hug. Tell yourself that it's okay, that you do your best. Maybe you needed love and support yourself, but that we don't need to run anymore. And you can take your time in this space as long as you need, or possibly getting out your journal right now and beginning to write, just hitting pen to paper and whatever is flooding out of you. Allow yourself to automatic write in this moment, coming from your body first. And pause me if you need more time. Really allowing that threshold to reach and for yourself to start to calm and come back down. Taking nice, deep breaths. Really allowing that energy to move through you. Maybe shaking out your hands a little bit. If it feels good to get up, I'll do that right now. To get up and shake it out. Move your legs, or possibly having your feet planted on the floor and pushing almost like a wall push up, but we're not pushing back. We're just really allowing that energy to push into that stable surface underneath your hands to allow that discharge. Allow that energetic discharge to fully move through you. And as you're coming back to this present moment, now we invite that wisdom. What feels different? Maybe what feels clearer? Is there any clarity, any downloads coming in? Or possibly maybe even what feels a little uncomfortable? Like where are these points, these nexus points that possibly we can look into further? This is deep, deep work. We're not just talking about your patterns. We started to see and bring curiosity to where they're coming from, what's underneath those behaviors, and begin to understand how they've been protecting you. And when that clicks, and when we come from a place of compassion and not judging or trying to fix ourselves, we don't have to try harder or force. We begin to see things a little differently. And over these 3 workshops, we've moved through a process First, we reconnected with the body. We tapped into what that felt sense feels like. And then the second workshop, we began to understand the patterns. And today we saw how those patterns are actually created and held in the first place. This is deep work. And you are an intelligent being. And this is where you get to choose. Do I keep managing and coping? Or do I actually begin to create change and bring compassion to them at the root? What we did here today is a doorway. We had a lot within this time together, and doing this consistently, pendulating a little bit, just a little bit. Once you feel too overwhelmed, too uncomfortable, we could come back, because a little bit more you'll feel next time, and a little bit more. And also having someone guide you through what comes up and holding you through these processes and helping you process what your body has been holding, that could also be very, very beneficial. And this is where self-trust, becomes something that we're not forcing anymore. We can learn how to stay connected to ourselves, to learn the discernment, to connect with those felt sensations. Call it intuition, call it self-trust, call it Holy Spirit, call it faith. Call it your inner wisdom and your guidance system. We all have it. So, to wrap this workshop, I thank you so much, so much. And I want to extend a few options moving forward after this workshop. I do offer one-on-one support for those who do want that personalized, the bio-individual and deeper support. This is where we continue to go into those specific patterns, your timeline, your emotional imprints, those limiting beliefs, and we work through them together. This is the deepest level of work, one-on-one work, through root cause therapy and energetics. And also, if you're craving something immersive with a taste of root cause therapy, but in a group-like setting, the Slow Water Retreat is this July 25th, 2026, and it's a beautiful space to slow down and disconnect from the noise and actually be held in this work in a deep way too. And if now isn't the time for any of that, for that level, that is okay too. You can come back to this whole workshop anytime you need. You'll have lifetime access, and just being here, starting to notice, starting to listen, that matters a lot more than you think. Continue to remain open, because you don't need to force a new version of yourself. You just need to stay connected to the one that's already here. And whatever that looks like to you, I'm always here to support you in that. Thank you so much. I'm sending my love and so much light. Thank you so much for being here with me for this final workshop in this series. Like, if there's one thing I want you to take away from this, it's like, your patterns are not random. Okay? Nothing is wrong with you. You're not broken. Like, you always make sense. Every piece of you is intelligent. Every piece of you makes sense. Like, every piece of who you are intelligent adaptations, possibly protective responses, ways that your nervous system learned to navigate experiences, emotions, or environments the best way that it knew in that moment. And when we begin to approach ourselves with understanding and compassion instead of shame or just trying to fix it or avoid it, we begin to soften. We begin to open. And the healing and the rewiring can begin. So over these 3 workshops, we've moved through such a beautiful progression of reconnecting to the body, understanding the nervous system and patterns, and beginning to explore how transformation actually happens at the root. And I hope that we can agree that this work is beyond mindset work. Yes, your mindset is absolutely a part of this equation, but it's also embodied in the body too. It's relational, it's emotional. It's learning how to stay connected to yourself instead of abandoning yourself the moment that discomfort arises. So if you're feeling called to continue deeper into this work, I do offer one-on-one sessions where we explore your specific patterns, emotional imprints, nervous system responses in a much more just bio-individual way, right? You are you, and there's only one you. And if you're craving a deeper group-like in-person experience, I am co-facilitating a segment of the Slow Water Retreat this summer, July 25th, 2026. And it will be a beautiful opportunity to slow down, reconnect, just immerse yourself in healing within nature and reflection and somatic work and community. So again, I'll put all of those details in the show notes below. And if this episode resonated with you, it would mean so much to me if you shared it with someone who may need this too. They can enroll for free in the workshop too. Or possibly to leave a review for this show, because that way, however the algorithms work, it could push, this show, this episode out to more people who need it. Like your past may live in your present patterns, but through your awareness and your safety, your connection and feeling create the possibility for something new. You do not need to force a new version of yourself. You just need to stay connected to the one that's already here. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being you. And until next week, as always, simply be you. You have everything inside of you to learn your energy of alignment and be unapologetic in who you are. Sending my love and so much light.